right, guys, welcome back to the business. It's Jay Erb. I have a very special guest. I have Pat Batias, right?
Batatas.
Batatas. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Pat
it's a weird
Batias.
one.
Pat B, or Booty, you call
Yeah.
him. All right. He's the owner and operator engineer at Pocket Grooves Studios. He plays the list is like long. He plays the acoustic guitar for Trey's Mustache, a very popular group. They normally play, how many shows would you say during a non-COVID year?
Yeah, normal year, 50 to 60.
50 to 60. So they're always active out here. Like I said, they have a nice buzz here in the area and beyond. Also, he has a rap rock band type, and then they go by the name of CME that he produces. So I wanted to bring you on because, like I said, we are probably one of the only shows on YouTube that bridges the gap between music and business, and just giving behind the scenes. Obviously, with you being a touring artist and an engineer, you could bring a lot of knowledge to this segment. So I wanted to bring you on. Obviously, you and I are very close associates, and
right.
But like I said, I respect your expertise. So I wanted to bring you on just so people can really benefit from the wealth of knowledge that you have. So I just wanted to start maybe by talking about your background a little. Maybe you want to share that, some musical influences, what got you, how long you've been in the music as a, professionally. So.
Yeah. My dad was a musician. He's a guitar player. He's been playing since he was 12 years old. And growing up, I was always around guitars. He had, the first electronic drum sets around in the 80s, and I was banging on those as a little guy.
Yeah.
And then I was walking home from junior high with my buddy, and he was talking about starting a band, and he wanted to start playing Nirvana songs. And I was like, okay, I don't play any music yet, but sounds cool. And I know my dad's got all this stuff in the basement, and I was like, okay, I want to be in. Yeah. And that was in 94.
Okay.
And we won the talent show that year playing Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. And honestly, man, since then I've always been playing in a band. I've never not been in a band. And I didn't know at the time that it was going to be kind of taking over my life. I was still into soccer and sports and all this other stuff. And it's been the best blessing ever to be able to be making music for the last 26 years or so.
It's great. And like I said, at a professional level, so you can go out there, do shows and get paid for it. So I think all of us, even though we love the craft, we love to also see the benefits from our hard work. So man, that's just living a dream, right?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to also ask you, as an artist and engineer, can you just talk about the different nuances that go into a mix, making it sound good, and just some of that technical technical stuff that goes into making a mix sound good as an engineer?
Yeah. As an engineer, it helps to me so much being a musician.
Yeah.
Because I know that there are some engineers who are not, or maybe they know a little bit, but they don't play a lot of instruments. So I can't just describe to somebody what I'm thinking. I can actually play it. What my thoughts are. So whether it's, drums, bass, or guitar, or, or if I hear like a keys or strings part, I can kind of show it to them.
Right.
And so, when I'm hearing a song, I'm trying to think of not necessarily playing a bunch of really intricate, difficult parts. I'm thinking about layering a lot of simple parts that complement each other well.
Yeah.
I think that's what most pop music is calling for. And so it's that. And then, I've been recording since I was in 8th grade, but like actually in the studio that you've been to, that's only been 10 years with that setup.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, man, it's a lot of learning. I've watched probably 5,000 hours of YouTube videos trying to learn, online courses, learning about, what do you do when you want your snare drum to sound this way, or all that stuff is, it's the technical side, but it's fun and it takes a long time to learn. And then eventually you kind of just know what you need to do to make a mix sound good. And then the other thing is you compare your song to a song that you hear on the radio. You say, what's the difference between mine and theirs?
Yeah.
And you try to make the, whatever you got to do to make it sound like that radio ready mix.
Yeah. I think that really helps because you do have the ear as playing different instruments. you have the ear for it. Whereas, you know, the average person that's do-it-yourself artist, which I wanted to ask about as well in a minute, but they don't have that background experience. So they're kind of, oh, they got to play it in the, I know a lot of people, the first thing they do is when they do a mix, they go play it in the car, then they play it
Oh,
at
yeah.
home, in home stereo, then they play it, but you have the advantage of having a studio, having those, the acoustics to go along with it, and having the proper equipment, you know, to mix down and engineer. So,
And I'm still doing it just like you just said. I
Yeah.
am testing it on 2 sets of speakers. I'm testing it on my headphones, and I'm going in my car and listening to it 50 times in my car and making notes on my phone what needs to change.
yeah, that's great. That's great. I think, like I said, that's an old-fashioned trick, but
Yeah.
it seems like everybody still does. I know back in the day when we started recording, that's how we could tell. Like, does it have enough bass? Is it too much treble? Is it wide enough? Is it dynamic enough? You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to know we still keep those old school things alive, right?
That's right, man. I not to get off subject, but there's a company called Slate Digital, and what they're doing is they're making emulations of car stereos that you can listen to through your computer, so you don't even have to go out to your car.
Wow, really?
You're doing the car test in your studio.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow, see,
I don't know how well it works yet. It just came out, but it sounds interesting.
Repeat that, because I don't think everybody caught that. What was it called?
So there's a brand called Steven Slate, and it's like he has Slate Digital. It's a couple little brands, but
Okay.
so he makes emulations of like the most sought after studio gear. And it's not just him, like a whole bunch of companies, Waves and all these companies do the same thing. But
Right.
he wants you to have the most amazing recording studio virtual in your computer with
That's awesome.
everything sounding like old school analog gear. And the latest thing that I just got an email about a week or two ago saying, here is an emulation where you can test your song in your car, but the car is on your computer and you can choose, is it an SUV? How many speakers does it have? All that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's brand new.
Yeah. It's brand new. I can send you the link, man.
Yeah, man, definitely. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about, so we talked about, like I wanted to segue into the do-it-yourself artists, a lot of studios popping up. Everybody seems like they have a studio in their basement or their bedroom right now. What type of equipment, that including mic and different gear, would you suggest for artists starting out, like the basics, the brick and mortar type stuff that they would need? What would you suggest?
This is why it's such a great time for music producers is you can have a decent computer, I don't know, maybe $500 or so for a laptop, get $100 interface with 2 channels and 1 microphone, and you're off to the races, man. You could, with all the computer software now, which I know that you and Rob use, is like you can just put samples and loops together.
Yeah.
You can build a song, and you can turn your microphone on, sing some lyrics over it, and literally mix it. I mean, just to tell you, man, just to show you how far we've come, Billie Eilish and her brother, they just won like every Grammy last year.
Yeah.
They recorded that on a laptop with like that same setup in their parents' living room, and they won Grammys.
Are you kidding me?
Not joking at all, man.
Wow, I never heard that story. Wow.
Yeah, they
The
just had
whole
like a
album.
keyboard. Yeah, they had a keyboard. They had loops on their computer. They had a microphone, and everything was affordable. And they just knew how to make it sound good. And they wrote songs that everyone liked.
Wow. So it just proves that you can do it, you know. And also apart from the record label model, like, you know, I think record labels right now are just obsolete because of the technology, you know. And,
You're right.
Yeah. So that's a great thing. You know?
Yeah, so the record labels, you used to need them because you needed them for merch and for you know, like do commercials and help you guys sell tickets. But now with the internet, everything is kind of an equal playing field for you could post everything to every social media site you want. You could sell stuff. You can do PayPal and exchange of goods online. It's like you don't necessarily need a label anymore.
Yeah. Also, which I'm going to get into that, and this is like, it's another perfect segue. Like, okay, say because I asked you earlier this summer about this question. You want to go out on the road with your own equipment, okay? What would you suggest for a setup for someone going out on the road with their own equipment? So it's a little bit different. So you need, I mean, speakers, mics, you know.
Is this like a full on like rock band, or is this more like
Yeah,
a
like a band, full band.
You know, this is where things can get more expensive than the recording studio setup, because the cost of cables,
Yeah.
you know, you're going to need, I don't know, let's say you have 3 people singing and you got 2 guitar players and a bass player and drummer. And if you're going to, let's say you're going to put microphones on all those drums.
Yeah.
I mean, you could easily on a budget spend $4 or $5 grand, because you got to buy the PA. You have to have speakers that are powerful enough to convey the song. And let's say you want there to be a lot of low end, then you need to buy a big sub.
Yeah.
All that stuff costs money. And then you need a mixer so you can mix everything. And it'd be easy to spend at least $3 grand, if not more. Again, depends on how big the production is and how many people are in the band.
Yeah. Well, so, and the reason why I asked that question is because I'm a big proponent of, and you already know because you guys have done virtual shows. I'm a big proponent of taking nowadays, because it's a level playing field, just like you mentioned. You can get equipment, take it, set it up in your garage, local assembly hall, you know, very low overhead, and rock out to a virtual show, have people pay to check it out, whatever the case might be. You've done virtual shows, so can you speak on that a little bit more for the audience? Because that's definitely the new, I think even after this COVID thing is lifted, virtual shows is going to be the way to go. There's low overhead, you know, so I think promoters going to be looking more so to go that route. So, but you have experience, you and your band, so can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was a learning curve for us too, because we had not done it until this year. We were forced to. Yeah. Luckily, we had a lot of the equipment needed to do it, to pull it off. But there were some software things that we needed to download, and we made a lot of phone calls to our technical guy, this guy, Andrew Dewar from our church, who just knows everything, and he's great. And he walked us through it. It's kind of complicated, you know, because sometimes like, oh, all right, it worked last time. And then Facebook changed their Facebook Live thing. And there was literally no button that was there the previous show to get the sound to be heard. Wow. So it's like, it's always trial and error. Yeah. But if you have your setup and you have the same equipment all the time, there's no updates to anything, you can rest assured that it should work out. Then you just have to make sure that you have somebody watching the broadcast and telling you, okay, it sounds good through my stereo at home, or my phone, or my stereo equipment at home, because what we're playing in our ears isn't necessarily what people are hearing in their living rooms.
Yeah, it's true.
So you got to make sure that you sound good, because if you assume you do and you don't, everyone's going to say, well, I'm not paying $5 for this, or whatever it is. You know?
Yeah. Okay, so give me I know, you know, as a performing artist, we've all had terrible shows where things didn't go right. You have an experience like that, like where, you know, nothing worked. You know, you probably have a million of those, right? So
we got a million, man. Okay.
You know, your guitar went out or something like that, or
it was way worse.
Lights went out, power, whatever.
Everything went out. So we were playing. This was a long time ago. One of my other bands, old bands. Yeah. We were playing a wedding, and the way we hooked up, I was playing electronic drums because we were trying to keep the volume down. Right. We somehow hooked the drum amp. It was just like a big speaker that the drums were coming out of. That's where all the noise was coming out of. Yeah. We hooked that into our mixer. But since the drum speaker was a powered speaker, it was sending power to the mixer, that's how we balanced the rest of the whole band. Right. Everything, that's the hub for everything to plug into. Yeah. And right about 5 minutes before we started playing this wedding, we saw smoke shooting out of all of the faders on the mixer, and all of our sound was down. Oh. And I honestly have no idea how we fixed it. We somehow came up with a way just to be heard, but it was not nearly as good or loud as we needed to be. Yeah. And the whole show was ruined. And to end the story quick, we did not play as long as we were hired to play. Oh. We played like a handful of songs and we were out.
Man, I would have been afraid of something catching fire, you know?
We were literally there waiting with like water bottles just in case we needed to. It was bad, man.
Oh man, that's crazy.
That
Yeah,
happens to
so
everybody,
that's
though, man.
probably I probably can't imagine a worse show than that. I've had situations where the mic's cut off, you know, just whatever. But you know, at that point, you just try to go on with the show. You have to go on with the show, right? But no,
Yeah,
never.
you gotta try to continue to look cool, even though
Yeah,
things are totally not
exactly.
going your way.
Yeah, yeah,
That Now, that's the one thing that's nice about playing venues that are dedicated music venues, where you have a guy who works for the place and like they mix the whole sound for you, and you don't have to bring equipment, because if anything goes out, it's that guy. It's his
right,
fault. It's
right.
not ours. When we're
Right.
providing our own sound, if something goes out, it's on us,
Yeah,
and then we might have to,
it's always nice when
discount
you
our
get point
price.
the finger. It's that guy. Sound man,
Exactly.
turn me up.
It's
Yeah,
always the sound
yeah,
man's fault, right?
yeah, yeah. So I mentioned virtual shows. And so now that you guys have done them, obviously it's better that you want the live show to have the crowd feedback and all that. Now that you've done virtual shows, can you see you guys doing that a lot more in the future, or what?
I think there will always be a mix. I think there might be a handful of them that are done. But I honestly think that when things start to open up again, I think they've been in their house for over a year now. I think they're itching to get out and have fun. And once
Yeah,
the weather's nice, going out. And to be honest with you, man, like a lot of our better paying shows are private gigs where people hire us to play in, their backyard, or they
yeah,
have a block party or something. That's where the more of the money's at. The bars, we played at the bars because we know that they're open year round. People go to them, and that's kind of like free promotion for us. We're going to get new people at those bars who have never seen us before.
yeah.
But it branches out to the corporate gigs, the weddings, and the private gigs, and that seems to be kind of our bread and butter. And I think virtual shows are cool, but there's nothing like being in the same venue, hearing the speakers moving air and people dancing.
Yeah.
You're in your house, you're not dancing probably by yourself in the living room.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah,
Probably not.
yeah.
So, I mean, in closing, I wanted to also ask. Now, we didn't talk about the Rap and Rock group. Can you tell us a little bit about the material? I know you guys have 1,000 songs stored by now, but can you tell us a little bit about that as well? Because obviously, that's a passion for you.
Yeah, man. It's kind of weird. So me and my buddies and I, this is probably almost 10 years ago. On Thursday nights, we had nothing to do. We were young. We wouldn't go out and go bowling, have a few drinks at night. And after, bowling, a couple of the guys would come over to the house after, had a little buzz going, and say, hey, put some raps down, just kind of just have some fun.
Yeah.
And then they started showing up before bowling night and then after bowling night. Then we're like, you know what? I don't even like bowling.
Yeah.
Why don't we just stay in and just make music?
Yeah.
And honestly, man, we were doing that steady for about 7 years. We all have more responsibilities. We have families now, so we only get together maybe once a month. But the idea was we had literally over 100 songs that we had written. And we were looking, we had this idea of, rather than releasing them all, individually, like by an album, what if we waited and try to get the Guinness Book of World Records, the most amount of songs on a debut release?
Yeah.
So the record was for a while like 110 songs, and we're like, oh, we can do this. So we were working towards it, and we were, we're getting some songs done. And then like a year ago, we realized like the new record was like 200 songs. And it's kind of like they're cheating, because they're all like 20-second songs. They're not even real songs, where ours are real 3-minute songs, 4-minute songs.
Right.
So we're like, screw it. So now we have a couple albums that we're finally getting. I have to just get to mixing them. But then we'll put them on, Bandcamp and, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, all that stuff.
That's
eventually.
what I wanted to know when you guys were finally going to release. I know you had like, obscene amount of songs that you have stored up. And so it's just like, you probably, if you release them every 6 to 8 weeks, you probably have 5 years worth of songs, right?
Probably.
If you wanted to release them like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So a funny story, when we first started, we did one song, and it was all about Illinois. And I think I might've showed it to you at one point.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, so we released it in 2012. It was the only song that we did the first album, but that was the only song that people seemed to kind of gravitate towards. And so I sent it to my buddy, and he's actually sent it to WGN News, and he's like, "Hey, my buddies just did this. It's all about Illinois." And like literally a week after we released this first song on our first record, it was played on WGN in the morning, and they were. I was like, "Oh my God, what a start to like this band!" And then it's been quiet ever since.
So that could be your claim to fame, you know.
I guess so.
Claim to fame.
I think my claim to fame is hopefully going to be with you, Jay.
Yeah, man. Hey, you know, you never know, man. I think we're making some great stuff, you know.
We are.
Yeah,
We got some excited stuff coming up, and the stuff that we've been doing together lately has been different and cool.
Yeah. And you guys will see that soon enough. I mean, it'll come out here sometime this year. I don't want to put a date on it, but at least it's like a teaser, you know. I didn't expect us to have a teaser within this show, but here it goes.
I'll tell you what, Jay. You know what? I'm excited. I've always had my recording studio has always been in my parents' basement.
Yeah.
And I was planning on having my studio here in Plainfield done by this year, but then with all the world events that went on, I had to push it back a year because I just wasn't making as much money with music.
Yeah.
So my plan is to have my new studio set up, which will be roomier, which will be, you know, it'll be really cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully sometime this year. And the nice thing about that for me will be, rather than driving a half hour to my parents to work on music only on the weekends, when I put my son down, I can just walk in the basement and start mixing songs and finally start churning out some music at the pace that I want to for the first time in a very long time.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's big time. So my last question for you, we could talk forever, but my last question. Now, what is your advice as an engineer for artists who come in to work with you, maybe for the first time or just working with anybody for the first time? As an engineer, you have certain ears. You know when an artist comes in prepared. You know when an artist doesn't. You know what it takes to make a great recording, because half of it, you know, I always tell people, like, you know, you can't really fix if you record it crappy, you can't polish that up. You can't polish up a turd, right?
That's right.
So, right. So, so what would be your advice for an artist coming in to work with an engineer for the first time?
I think that you kind of hit on it already, Jay. It's being prepared. And being prepared meaning you know your parts, you can redo them over and over again, and they're going to be consistent. I've worked with hip hop and rap guys who, you know, I tell them to take another pass at it, and they're totally off the beat. It's completely different the second time. So I know that they're not prepared.
Right.
So being well rehearsed, I would say. And then the other thing is, and this kind of more goes towards like maybe a rock group, but you have to have an idea of what your record wants to sound like. So I always ask people to send me an album where you like how the drums sound.
Yeah.
Send me an album where you want how you like the guitars to sound. All those instruments, I want to know what we're going for, because if I have no idea and they can't tell me, then I don't know. I need to choose a snare drum, because the snare drum is a huge part of a rock mix. I need to choose the cymbals. I need to know what kind of guitar, what kind of amps to play.
And at that point, it's their song. At that point, it's not even the artist's song anymore, and their vision is your song at that point, right?
Exactly. So I need them to communicate what are we working towards? What's the finish line going to sound like? Right. And then we can start piecing it together.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. I think a lot of people go into the studio and they're like, all right, let's lay it down. And it's like, well, okay, that's the first step, but what is the finished product going to sound like in your head? And I'll try to help you get there. I think that's mainly what a producer is trying to do, is bridge the gap between what the artist is hearing in his head and actually what comes off on an album.
Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree with that. Man, it's been great. I mean, the time has kind of flown by, man.
It has, man.
I appreciate you on short notice being able to join me. I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, and you know, we all have family responsibilities and things we have to get done. But you know, I really appreciate it, man. And I appreciate everybody for watching. It's been The Business with Pat B, and you know, hopefully you guys have picked up a lot of the gems that he's, you know, been able to give us today. We'll be back in a couple of weeks on Wednesday. Again, Pat, I wanted to thank you, man, for being my special guest. Also a good buddy of mine. And until next time we see you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay. It's been a pleasure, man.
Thanks,
man. I appreciate it.
I'm Jay Erb. I run Charles & Trimble. Thanks for checking out this episode of The Business, our new show every other Wednesday where we dive into the inner workings of the music business, behind the scenes with the music professionals who live it and breathe it every day. Be sure to like and subscribe. And for more content daily, head over to our IG page, Charles and Trimble. Until next time, thanks.